welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 290, and I'm Lisa, your host, also known as Fiber Nymph. I will put my screen in here that has all of my contact information and where you can find me on social media. Today is Wednesday, August 1st, so happy August. Summer is, I guess, officially 2/3 over pretty much, if you count summer as June, July, and August, which I do, because once September 1st gets here, that is meteorological fall, y'all. So yeah, one more month of summer. I'm okay with that. It's been a good summer, but, you know, fall is always welcome in my world. So, how are you? My monster is back with me today, my monster mug. Hope you've been having a good week. This is day 6. I haven't even made it to a full week to record. But again, this is the day that I can get in a recording, so I thought I would take advantage of it. And truth be told, it may not actually even go up until tomorrow, Thursday. But we'll see what we can do. A couple of administrative things I wanted to mention is, number one, last week I said I might try to put pictures of my vacation in at the end of the podcast, and when I was processing, I totally forgot to do that, so I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it this week because it's a little after the fact, but yeah, I didn't really even post them to social media much while I was away, and I don't know how excited they would be for you anyhow, but, you know, I'm sorry. I feel bad that I omitted them. Number 2, thank you to everyone who commented on last week's video saying they could totally relate to my feelings of social weirdness in groups of people that you don't know, as I was relating my experience at my mom's, not specifically at her wedding, but, you know, like the whole social family gathering stuff that was going on that whole weekend. I know that I'm not the only one who deals with that, and I think it's a very common thing among knitters. I don't know that it's more common among knitters than in other populations, but I know I hear it a lot amongst knitters, so I knew you guys would totally understand. But yeah, it's a thing. And lastly, I just thought I would point out, I said it is episode 290, and again, my show notes are down here, which is why I keep glancing down here. 290, which means in 10 episodes, it'll be episode 300. I'm not always really good about remembering to plan something special for milestones, but I think 300 episodes really does require some sort of special notoriety. So stay tuned in the coming weeks. We're going to do something fun and spectacular for 300 episodes, I think. I don't know what it's going to be. It may be mildly spectacular, not excessively spectacular, but I'll think of something. But that's 10 episodes away, which probably, considering the fact I'm going to be away almost 3 weeks in there, won't land until probably the end of October, so it'll be sometime this fall. But stay tuned, because I'm thinking already about what I want to do to celebrate 300 episodes of this crazy, crazy podcast that if you have been following along with me on this journey for over 7 years now, you deserve a medal. Or some booze, one or the other, I don't know. I'll leave that part up to you. I decided to pop this little message in here. I'm recording this a little bit later in the podcast, which you can tell because it's pouring down rain right now, which it's probably not right at this moment. I don't know. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know, this is going to be a longer episode. It will definitely be over an hour. So I just wanted to give you a heads up in case you don't have time to watch it all, or if you're not sure if you're going to want to watch the whole thing. I do have a lot of 90% stuff to talk to you about. I do have some winners to announce for our July unofficial Tour de Fleece spin-along, so that's definitely in here. And then I do have a Summer of Me update, which verges into the 10%. But then at the end, I do have shop news. And I know last time I told you I might just do a separate little recording of what would be going up into a shop update. I'm not going to do that. I am going to just include that at the end of this episode. So if you are interested in seeing what's going to be in the shop this Friday at 6 p.m. for an update You might want to stick around and check that out because I do have some new colorways going in that I'm really excited to share with you. But I wanted to let you know that that will be at the end of the podcast. And as always, I will have a timestamp menu so you can hop around and skip the parts you aren't interested in, skip to the things that you do want to watch. But I have some exciting stuff that I want to tell you, but it won't be until the very, very end that is shop related. So if that's of interest to you, please make sure you stick around for that. Otherwise, let's get back to your regularly scheduled program. Let's pop into the 90% part of the podcast, shall we? I have a finished object for you this week. It's a pair of socks that I did not put on sock blockers. I'm sorry. But they were the What Color Is Your Sheep colorway that I dyed up for Needles Up Maryland this year. That's the socks I finished. So I had one sock tube finished when I went to Needles Up as a sample. I hadn't had the heel in it yet. And then I knit this, actually this was the first one, not that it matters. I had this one knit up, so then I did the second one, finished that this week, put both heels in yesterday morning. I just sat down and banged them out, and we're done. You might notice that the stripes do not match. They don't even go in the same order. Or the same direction, because the first one I knit from the outside of the ball, and I don't remember why I did that because I rarely ever do that. I think I did it because I knew I was going to be setting it on the table as a sample, and if I pulled from the center, it was going, well, no, that's not, because it wasn't even on the needles. That didn't make any sense. Why did I say that? I don't know. I don't know why I pulled from the outside of the ball. Maybe I just wanted to keep it neat for some reason. Whatever. I pulled from the outside of the ball for the first sock, but I pulled from the inside of the ball for the second sock. So the striping pattern goes in the opposite direction, which, who cares, right? It's fun, it's quirky, and once I finished these, actually while I was on the second one, I decided that these are going to be my daughter's Christmas gift socks. I wish I would have decided that before that, because I didn't knit the first sock tube as long as I would have had I known I was going to give them to her at that point, because her feet are larger than mine by about an inch. So the cuffs are definitely shorter. They're a little over 5 inches instead of 6 inches, which is what I would normally do for either of us. But since she's got a longer foot, she'll just have to deal with shorter cuffs, and I don't think she'll really care. I did sell this colorway at the show with a coordinating skein, a mini skein for heels and toes. I just decided to use the stripy yarn for my heels, though, obviously, and my toes. But yeah, I had some yarn I could have used if I wanted, but I kind of just like the crazy stripiness of these. So anyway, one Christmas gift done. That feels so good, because I rarely start thinking about Christmas knitting this early. Actually, that's not true. Sometimes I think about it, but I rarely act upon it this early, so I'm really glad to have at least one Christmas gift knit done, because I always knit her and my younger son, my middle child. I always knit them socks for Christmas because they are very knit-worthy and they both love hand-knit socks. So anyway, one pair down. Woohoo! That's the only finished object that I have for you. Since I finished that sock, and that was the sock I was actively knitting on at this point, I went through my whips. Oh my gosh. I have so many socks in progress. I have a bin, like one of those big, like Sterlite plastic bins that sits right next to my desk in my office, and that holds, well, I thought it held all of my whips, but it doesn't. There's several more whips that are just sort of sitting next to it because they don't fit in that bin. You know, I went through that bin not long ago, and I pulled some things out that I told you, I don't think I told you what they were, but I pulled a couple projects out. I thought, I'm never going to finish these. I'm just going to frog them. And then one of them this week I was looking at, I'm like, I'm not going to frog that after all. I think I'm going to save that and use that as a Christmas gift too, because the colors are perfect for one of my girlfriends. besides the point. Anyway, as I was going through it, I realized just how many pairs of socks I have in progress, and most of them are like the first sock is finished, and the second one is either just sort of cast on or not cast on at all. And a lot of them that, well, no, that's not true either, because some of them are just first socks, and some of them were like ones that I was doing samples of just to show colorways, like if they're my yarn. But then I don't finish them right away, but I needed the needles, so I like have a ton of socks that just have the needles ripped out of them that I'll have to pick the stitches up for eventually. It's not a big deal, but it's just sort of funny to me. Anyway, I decided to go for the pair of socks that is closest to being done at this point. It's kind of like when you're trying to pay off a bunch of bills, and like you pay one off and then you go to the next one that's almost, the next one that's closest to being paid off. Yeah, that's where I'm at with my sock knitting. So I have this sock, which is a sock blank sock. This is the one I've been doing as a show sample, like I'm knitting it while I'm at shows because people need to see what you do with sock blanks sometimes. So this is all I have left to do of the second sock. The first one has been done for a while. And here's the blank that I'm using, and here is how far I am. I'm about halfway done with the foot, so I really should be able to bang this one out pretty quickly. And this one I do believe will be for me, though not for a gift, because I really like this colorway. Or this, not really a colorway when it's on a sock blank, because they're really not repeatable in any, at least these kind are not super repeatable. And I don't usually write down my sock blank recipes unless I'm doing, like the hand painted ones, sometimes I will, which I haven't done any in a while, and I really need to do some. I haven't done any fireworks sock blanks this summer. What's up with that? I'll do some. I'll do some before the end of August, I promise. Anyway, so this is my sock project that I'm working on. So it's one of my happenstance sock blanks with sparkle. Just it was a resist dye sock blank, and I'm knitting it on US 1s, which is what I knit pretty much all of my socks on. And so that is my current sock focus. And when I get this done, I will move on to another sock that is in progress. And now I'm going to get a tickle in my throat. Okay. So anyway, those are the two things that I've worked the most on. I've worked on Tenya, but very little. What I did end up doing with Tenya, and I'm not even going to show it to you this week, what I did do though is I put it onto a second needle so that it was more open and I could stretch it out and try it on, but also so that I could block it. There's about 10 inches of fabric. I really haven't added much more to it than when I showed it to you last week. But I soaked it and I blocked it mildly. It wasn't like an aggressive blocking since it's still on the needles, but I just wanted to get a feel for the length. And I wasn't sure how much it was going to grow lengthwise, and indeed it did not grow very much lengthwise, which isn't a surprise because things do tend to grow more widthwise than lengthwise when you block. I guess what I had in mind was when I did my wedding skirt out of Hempathy, which is the yarn I'm using for my Tegna, it did grow substantially lengthwise, but looking back, I think that's because there was so much fabric. It was a longer skirt, like it ended up coming at least down to my knees, if not a tiny bit longer, but then I had a poofy slip underneath it too, so. But there was just so much weight because Hempathy is it's a plant-based yarn, the fiber, and it tends to be heavy, especially in those quantities. And so I think gravity just is what played a big role, and a lot of that was lace. That skirt was lace. So it just opened up and pulled. I imagine Tenya may do that once I have the whole thing done and there's more hanging on me. It's probably going to grow a little bit. So I will keep that in mind as I'm knitting the length, but at this point, it didn't grow a whole lot when I blocked it. I was also trying to get a good handle on where I was going to be at yarn-wise, because again, I only have 3 and less than a half balls left, and I still have a substantial amount of the top to knit. I'm going to just go for it. I've vacillated over it a lot. If I could get the yarn that I purchased from Webs, if they had it in stock, I'd probably buy another ball or two, but they don't have any more in stock in this colorway. I have found it a couple of other places online. Um, so I could order some, but it probably won't be the same dye lot. And I don't want to add more yarn. Like, I don't want to have extras of this left over when I'm done. Like my wedding skirt, I've got tons of that yarn left over. And it's not really a color I feel the need to knit with again. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I still have never done anything with my wedding skirt. Remember, several podcasts ago, I was thinking about things I could do with it to change it into something else that I'd actually wear. Yeah, I haven't done that either. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh, yarn for Tanya. I'm going to just go with it and hope that I have enough, because it is decreasing. I'm doing decreases, waist shaping, which is not called for in the pattern. And even though I'm making it a little bit longer than the pattern calls for, because I don't want the crop look, I'm making it narrower, and I'm not putting sleeves on it. So I'm hoping all those factors will maybe even out and it'll be okay. Of course, the other thing is Tanya calls, I believe, for fingering weight yarn, and I'm using technically a DK. We're not going to go there. I'm just going to live in my happy little pretend land that this is going to be okay, because I think it will be. I don't know for sure, but I think it will be. And if it ends up not being okay, I will deal with that when the time comes. That's all I can say. So Tanya I did work on a little bit. The other thing I did work on some is my design project that I showed you sort of last week, that I'm using my Fiber Nymph Dye Works Sunshine and Floof bases. I did put some more work into that. I'm at a point now in the pattern, though, that it really takes some thought and trying to figure out some trickier things that I need to do in the center section of the shawl. So I haven't been forging forward because I don't want to knit it and have to rip it a lot, since I am using a mohair yarn. So I'm trying to think it through well and have it on paper well, which is not typically how I design. When I design, I tend to design as I knit. I don't usually plan it out on paper first, but I'm doing it a little differently this time so that I can minimize how much I have to rip back. I don't know if you can hear that, but it is really, really raining right now. I have the window open over here, not this one, but the one next to it. So it's probably really relaxing. If I just shut up and we sat here and listened to the rain, it would be great. Anyway, all right, so my design project, shawl wrap, I'm probably not going to show you again until it's finished, but I am going to be working on it. So that's pretty much all I knit on this week. Like I said, I did go through my bin of whips, not just to see what I could cull, because I did that recently, but when I realized that those socks that I just finished would make a good Christmas gift, I thought, I wonder what other things I have in my whip box, my whip bin, that could be used as Christmas gifts as well, because that would get me ahead, right? So I went through them, and there's actually some things in there that I started as Christmas gifts last year and didn't finish, so those are kind of givens. So the balaclava that I was knitting for my younger son, my middle child, I always feel like I need to qualify this because he's 23. He's going to be 24, so he's not like my youngest son who's 4. Okay, he's he's an adult. Anyway, I started knitting that for him last year, and then I had the issue of wondering, do I have enough yarn? Because I didn't have any more of that yarn. So I'm going to try to finish that, and I think it will work with the yarn that I have, based on my experience making the pattern before. It's the gusseted helmet liner pattern. Can't remember the designer, but it's in my project page. So I pulled that out of hibernation. My blanket, the Afghan that I was making for my oldest son, that is going back into rotation. It's going to take a while. It's, bulky yarn. I don't enjoy knitting bulky yarn, but I really want to make this Afghan for him. So I'm hoping if I pull it out now and start working on it a little bit every day or every couple of days, I'll get it done. So I pulled that out of hibernation. Then what else? Oh, the big squish. Did I already mention this? I'm sorry. I feel like I'm repeating myself maybe. I don't know if you remember this. It was something that I had sort of designed on the fly for myself last year during Stash Dash. using my own yarn, Fiber Dye Works yarn. And I did use it as a show sample, which is always kind of weird when I don't have a pattern actually written out for something and then I use it as a show sample. But it showed off the yarn nicely. I started another one using some Destination Yarns yarn last winter, and I was about a third of the way through it whenever I lost steam on it, and then I've gone to it a couple of times thinking I should just frog this, but then I don't, because I start sitting down and I knit a little bit and I'm like, oh, I really like this. I love the colors. They're very autumnal. So that's the thing I think I'm going to keep making, and I may give that to my one girlfriend for Christmas, because they're very much her colors, and I think she would like that. So we'll see. Plus, it's a design that I am theoretically working on, so it'd probably be good for me to knit it, because I'm doing it a little bit differently than I did the first one. So there's that. What else? Did I pull any ones? No, I guess those are the main three that I pulled out. I was, however, thinking about other specific Christmas gifts that I want to make, and like I said, I need to do socks for my younger son. And so I went through my yarn stash. I have a lot of West Yorkshire Spinners yarn, the bird yarn, and so I did pull out a skein of that I think will be really good for him. It's the owl colorway. And I've got some gray that I can use for heels on that, so I think that'll work out well. I do want to make socks. I think I want to make socks for my mom and her new hubby out of like Pittsburgh Steelers or Penguins, the black and gold kind of colorway, which I do have have a couple of those in my colorway lineup. I just have to decide which one I want to do. So we'll see, but that's a lot of socks. Excuse me. Plus I'd like to knit my husband a pair of socks, which I have that other West Yorkshire Spinners yarn that I bought 2 skeins of to do kind of matchy colorway socks for both him and me. But if I could get his pair done for Christmas, that would be good. I don't know. I'm spitballing at this point. Lots of socks for Christmas. I mean, it's not undoable. The way I knit socks, I could definitely get them all done. It's just, I need to plan and start now. So, anyway, that's where I'm at with my knitting this week. I don't think I knit on anything else. Oh, I am going to be starting another project, though, that will be a test knit, actually. I don't do a lot of test knits, number one, because usually test knits have deadlines, and I'm really bad at deadlines, especially, not because I'm bad at deadlines per se, but just, like, my knitting time is sort of limited, because I'm busy with working and everything else. Not that other people aren't, I know. Bad explanation. But this one is for Sarah Jordan, a pattern that she has out, a call for test knitters right now, and it's a pattern that she designed using some of my yarn, and it's in versibles, and I really would like to test knit a set of this particular project. It's a mitt pattern. You can go to her group on Ravelry, the PA Knitwit, fans of PA Knitwit, I think it might be called. I'll link it in the show notes. She puts calls for test knitters out in that group, so if you like her patterns or might possibly want to test knit for her sometime, that would be a wonderful group for you to follow. Anyway, it's a mitt pattern, so I'm going to be doing that, and I can't wait, because I haven't knit anything with my inversibles well, that's not true. Why am I saying that? I haven't knit anything with my inversibles for me to keep in a while. I've knit 2 pair of inversible socks in the last year, but they were both gifts, so those don't count as much. Okay, moving on. Spinning. I did do spinning. I finished a second skein of the BFL Gotland that I've been doing. So this was, I think this was the first one. It's heavier. So this is the second one that I finished this week. I weighed it. Actually, I weighed the 2 together. And these are just under, like a smidge under 5 ounces. And I have a 2.5 pound fleece. So that means I'm approximately, that's 40 ounces, right? Yeah, 40 ounces. So I'm about 1/8 of the way through this fleece. I can't remember my yardage now. It's right around 300 yards between these 2 skeins. I'm 3-plying it. I've told you about that before. I'm separating out Bunny's colors. Bunny was the name of the sheep. Into her 3 predominant colors. And then just kind of, I'm combing them using the hackle, and then spinning them just randomly in stretches of the different colors. I did tell you, I believe, that I found a 4th color, a really super dark, like almost blackish color in her fleece. I was trying to spin that. It's so short though that it basically just ends up being very wiry. So instead of spinning it by itself, I moved on to just trying to hold some of those super short little pieces with other colors, which sort of worked, but I'm not so sure it's going to pan out well once I knit it. It may end up being the things that they'll definitely kind of boink out, but I'm not sure if they'll pill or come out. I don't know. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that part. It's just such a pretty color that I hate to not use it at all, but it's not overly usable for spinning. But anyway, I'm happy with what I'm getting so far. It smells very sheepy. I can definitely feel the lanolin that's left in it now after it's done. Like, I don't feel it so much while I'm spinning it, because like I said, I did not scour this fleece. Carlene from the Prairie, whose fleece this was, she had rinsed it already. It's a very clean fleece, but I know once I actually soak these, if I soak them in warm water, they're going to lose some lanolin. They're going to poof up. I'm almost positive of that. Anyway, really enjoying that. I'm taking a little bit of a break from Bunny right now, though, because this was my designated July unofficial Tour de Fleece spin-along project. So now that July is over, I'm going to take a little bit of a break from this because I really want to finish up the mixed BFL that I'm spinning from Unwind Yarn Company and get that finished and off the bobbin, off the wheel. So then I'll go back to Bunny. The other thing I have been spinning a little bit is with my Jalagan, which I didn't show you last week, but I'll show you this week. This is some of my mixed BFL in the What Sorcery colorway. So this is how much I have. This spindle is definitely a different beast than any other spindle I've ever used. It's a little wiggly as I spin, and I don't know. My default drop spindling is very fine, and I'm finding that I want to do that with this, but this is a heavier spindle than most that I use. It is 33 grams, so 1.2 ounces. That feels like a heavier spindle than what I tend to use. Most of my other spindles are lighter. And I don't know, it does drop. I'm putting the drop in drop spindle with this one. But I'm having fun playing with it. I'm not at all super adept at winding it onto here, which is funny because I used to use a Nostipin before I had a ball winder, to wind my yarn into a center pull ball. And I used to be fairly good at that, but doing it with these real fun singles is a little different, so anyway. But I'm just sort of playing with that here and there. When I have a few minutes, I'll pull it out and spin a little. Otherwise, spinning, I don't have anything else planned other than I really, really want to do a combo spin at some point. If you don't know what a combo spin is, it is where you take several different braids of fiber. So not like a whole lot of fiber that's all dyed the same, but you take a whole bunch of different braids. This is a great stash buster for if you have a lot of fiber in your stash. Take a lot of different braids. They can be kind of in the same color families, or they can be completely different, whatever. And you divide them up into all these little segments. And then you just kind of randomly pick up all the segments and you put them in a ball, or not in a ball, in like in a bag or a basket or whatever. So they're all randomly mixed up, and then you just pull out a segment one at a time, just random. So you're totally getting, totally mixed up colors. I mean, they'll look more mixed up if your colorways are very different than if they're in similar color families. But then if you spin it and then you do a chain ply, you'll get these long stretches of color. I suppose if you did it and then you two-plied it, you wouldn't get the stretches of color so much as you'd probably get barber pulling and some overlap. I don't know. I'm probably, when I do mine, I want to do it chain plied. Anyway, there's a really good video about how to do this. I can't remember the name of the podcast now. I watched it. I'm sorry. I'm blanking on the name of it, but I will find it and put it in the show notes. That explains this whole process, at least how this one spinner does it. Is her name Teresa? I want to say it's Teresa, but it may not be. Schiffonator. Oh gosh, I don't know. She's from across the pond somewhere. I think Germany. I think she's in Germany. I've probably got all that wrong, but anyway, if you guys have seen the video, you're shaking your head. You're like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Or like, no, Lisa, you're getting that all wrong. Anyway, I will link the video. But it's just such a cool process, and I've got so much fiber, both my own and ones from other people, that I really, really want to do something with. So that is coming down the pike, but it will not be happening at least until I get the Unwind Yarn Company fiber done. That has to happen first. The other thing I'm thinking about with my fiber is I have a huge stash of fiber that I've purchased over the years that is undyed, like the natural colors. And I love natural colored fiber, you know that, and natural colored yarns. It makes me happy, but I have so much of it that I feel like I don't know that I'm necessarily going to want to spin all of that in its natural color. So I'm thinking I may take some of that from my stash and do some dyeing with that. I don't know why I've never thought of that before. It seems sort of silly since I dye for a living. But I may end up doing that just to give myself some more excitement in my dyeing. We'll see. Okay, let's see. Let's move on. Talking about spinning, let's go on to knit-alongs, or alongs, because July was our unofficial Tour de Fleece spin-along month, and that is now over. So I have prizes for you. But first I want to say thank you so much to everybody who took part in that. You guys were so inspirational. I love when people in our group talk about spinning. I know we predominantly tend to focus on knitting, even though almost everything we do is totally open to other fiber crafts too, you know, whether it's weaving or spinning or crochet. I know we do tend to focus a little bit more on spinning or on knitting, but I think spinning is probably our second most popular craft in our group. And so it's just always a happy thing for me to see your spinning projects, and I really, really enjoyed seeing what you were spinning this past month. Moose Loon was spinning dog hair. That was really cool. I've heard of that before, but I hadn't seen it done, so that was pretty neat. Just so many different projects, and seeing all your different spinning tools, you know, from handmade spindles to your different Turkish spindles to just everything. I just loved seeing the spun singles on your wheels, like on your bobbins or on your spindles. It made me happy. So anyway, thank you for participating in that. I feel like I actually sort of kept up with this along more than I do with some of my alongs sometimes, so yay me. But anyway, I did do random number generator for the winners this morning, and I decided to leave that thread open. I'm not going to lock it. It isn't stickied anymore since it's not the current month, but I'm leaving it open, so if you want to keep talking about your spinning, please do feel free to post in there, or you can start talking about it in the No Along August thread that is open and waiting for conversation to begin. Anyway, so I did winners, and I usually just do 2 winners a month for our alongs, but for whatever reason I decided I wanted to do 3 this month. So we have 3 winners from the July unofficial Tour de Fleece spin along. So let me show you what the prizes are first. And I decided that this time all this fiber is going to be my fiber that I've dyed for you guys. So what we have is some Cheviot, which is in my beach wedding colorway. And these are all 4 ounces. Then I've got some mixed BFL, and this is in the What Sorcery, which is the same colorway that I'm doing my spinning on my Jalab in. So that's the mixed BFL. And then we have some Falkland in Mystic Merlin. This was a show only colorway. I dyed this up for shows this year, so it's some left from that. And lastly, we have regular BFL, not mixed BFL, in the Hot Time Summer in the City colorway, which is really fun, bright pinks, oranges, and yellow. So those are your 4 fiber choices. So if you are one of the 3 winners that I'm going to announce here, please PM me and let me know what your fiber prize choice is. Tell me at least your top 2. If not your top 3, since there's 3 winners, and the prize will go out as they come in. So first come, first serve on those, but give me at least your top 2 choices. You can give me your top 3 if you'd like, in the order that you'd like them. The winners are, the first winner is post number 241, who was Muckelpoo 1986, and that is Karina from Austria. Congratulations, Karina. Second winner was post number 200, and that is Sarah, who is PA Knitwit. And the third winner is post number 6, who is Mima Cox, and that is Marianne. So congratulations, all 3 of you, Sarah, Karina, and Marianne. Please PM me again with your name, full name, and mailing address, as well as your top 2 or 3 prize choices from the fibers that I just showed you. So, thank you for participating. And again, August, we are taking a break from any official alongs. It's the no along August. So, we will just have a chatter thread. I would love to hear what you're crafting, what you're doing. Yeah, whatever you want to talk about. It's just an open thread there for your pleasure. Please join along. There's a lot of open threads, though. There's the Summer of Us thread. There's the Knitting Colorwork thread. There's something else. The sewing thread. That sounds like fun, doesn't it? Sewing thread. There is one. All right. Last week I announced the winners for the Margaret's Passion sock pattern by Heidi Nick. One of the winners did contact me. The other one I'm still waiting to hear from. So if you are for sure, who is Katie, you were one of the winners for that pattern. Please PM me. Let me know that you won, and I will send you your code so that you can download that sock pattern. Alrighty, new things. I only have one new thing to show you this week. Let me find it. And it's a skein of yarn. I hadn't intentionally wanted to buy or planned to buy a skein of yarn. I always want to buy yarn. But I had gone down to Ross Farm Mercantile, their shop in Washington, PA. I think I said they were in 84. They're not in 84. They're in Washington, PA. I went down there last week to drop off my trunk show yarn and the colorway that I did up for them for the yarn crawl. It's the Steel Valley Yarn Crawl, which begins on Friday. And while I was there, I hadn't been to their shop before, so I was looking around, and they carry all indie dyed yarn as well as their own farm yarn, like from their sheep and their fiber. But that's it. They don't carry any commercial yarns, which I think is pretty cool. But they've got several indie dyers yarns there right now, and this is what I picked up. This is Emma's yarn, crazy beautiful color, and this is Practically Perfect Sock, which is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon blend in the Farmer's Market colorway. I just thought it was beautiful. It's very autumnal looking, and I'm all about the autumn colors apparently. Can you tell? I can't wait for autumn. Anyway, so I picked that up just because it made me happy. But that's it. That's my only new thing this week. At least my new thing I can show you. There's probably other new things out there that I did get shoes in the mail. I had a project that I had to be working on online that was like, I wasn't procrastinating, but I was overwhelmed by it. So I found myself shoe shopping online a lot. I just got a new pair of Teva flip-flops. They're the same, the mush, the mandolin mush, like the wedge ones. I love those. I wear them all the time, and I wear them to death. Like, I've had so many pairs of them, I just wear them out, and I was due for a new pair, so I got those in the mail. Nothing super exciting, but that was something I got. I do have some other sandals coming, actually some other shoes coming from Taos, the shop, not the city. Although they may be based in Taos, I don't know. Okay, moving on. Let's go on to Summer of Me. Summer of Me update. I haven't done any sewing this week. However, I've been sewing in my mind, so it's been imaginary sewing. What I really would like to make is a couple pair of shorts, like just sort of easy, loungy shorts to wear around the house, nothing fancy to wear out in public. And here's where this comes from. I have a pair of shorts that I purchased, I think like 15 years ago, because I can remember the vacation that I purchased them for. Now, keep in mind, 15 years ago, there was a lot more of me than there is now. So these shorts are quite large. They are like 3 to 4 sizes larger than what I wear now. They're an elastic waist short. I have fiber or yarn or something on my nose, sorry, or hair. Anyway, yeah, so they are very, very large, very roomy. To keep them on, I have to like roll the waistband down several times to like make them stay up and to have them not be up to my boobs. And then they're just super roomy in the butt. The side seams on these, they're like a cottony kind of fabric, so they're not stretchy, but the side seams on them are like so worn out. They're probably like rotted because I've had them for so long. They're falling apart, but they're so comfortable, and I love them just to lounge around the house. They look ridiculous. I'm sure my husband thinks, oh my gosh, please throw those away, because I pick on him for some of his really old clothes. He's probably thinking, I have no room to talk, and he's right. But yeah, I would love to make a couple pairs of shorts like that, but in a more appropriate size, just to wear around the house. Just something comfy that I can wear in the house, sleep in, whatever. You know, those kind of loungy, jammy kind of shorts. I also have a pair of actual pajama shorts that I tend to wear, like, a lot. And they're super comfortable. So I may actually draft a pattern between those two things, the jammy shorts and the other shorts, and just see what I get. So that's sort of what I'm thinking about sewing next, in addition to some tops. I always want to make tops, because I like tops, but haven't done anything about that yet. I also want to go fabric shopping, but I don't need to go fabric shopping right now, so I'm trying to hold off, because I don't want to build a giant fabric stash. There's no reason for it right now. I'm not sewing enough for that yet. Alright, so that was sewing. As with regard to natural dyeing, I obviously have not done any natural dyeing, but I have been reading a good bit this past week, an actual physical book, Wild Color by Jenny Dean. I've seen this book recommended by a lot of people who do natural dyeing, and I'll tell you what, it is fascinating. You know, I dye for a living, but I dye protein-based fibers, which is a totally different animal, literally, than plant-based fibers. Yeah, it's a different process. I'm not going to go into it. It's very different. But I understand the dyeing I do. Like that, I know the process. I know what I'm doing. It feels much easier to me than anything I'm reading in this book. This feels very complex. This feels very, very sciencey. Like you have to know a lot. Not that I don't have to know a lot for what I dye for a living, but I already know that. So it doesn't seem as complicated. This just is blowing my mind, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I have to learn all this stuff to be able to do this. But it's fun, and I'm really looking forward to actually playing with it some once I get the guts to try it. I'm not sure that I have everything I actually need as far as materials. I mean, I have different dried dye stuffs that I purchased at Maryland Sheep and Wool, and I do have some things I can use to mordant with. I don't understand that whole process quite yet, but this book is very good about explaining it. So I feel like I'm learning. I'm just not applying what I'm learning quite yet, but I have been reading it, so I would recommend this. I'm finding it very informative. Wild Color by Jenny Dean, if you are looking for a book on natural dyeing. So I did that. The weather, as it's raining still, has not really been overly cooperative for me to get out bicycling or kayaking in the past week. However, I did join the gym. I've been thinking about this now for well over a year, ever since I moved up here to the mountain house. And I quit my old gym, which was back towards my house, because I just wasn't there enough to make use of it, and I was paying for a membership I wasn't using. But there's not really one super close to me. Like, to get to the one that I joined, it's a good 15-minute drive at least, 15 to 20-minute drive. I know that doesn't sound very far, probably to some people, but it feels far to me, just because I tend to not go out a whole lot. I like being home, and I don't really need to go out a lot during the week, you know. But anyway, I did join the gym. I got fed up with how my body is feeling. I just need to move more. And the gym is conveniently located in the same plaza where our grocery store that I shop at up here is. So that's something, right? It probably just means I'll go to the gym and then go to the grocery store and buy a bunch of food because I'll be hungry. I actually haven't been buying a lot, but I've been eating a ton of fruit this last week, which is good. I love summer fruits much more than winter fruits. I just don't tend to love fruit a lot in general. I'd rather eat veggies than fruits, but I've been eating a lot of fruit this week. Anyway, so I joined Snap Fitness. That's what it is. It's a chain, you know, one of those 24-hour gyms that you can go to. And I've gone a couple of times. Right now, my muscles are really feeling it. They're like, hey, what are you doing to us? You haven't done that in a long time. Stop it. But it does feel good. I always, always, always feel so much better after I have worked out. Like emotionally, mentally. And that was actually one of the big reasons I decided to join the gym. Not just how I was feeling physically in my body, but I don't know how to explain all this without really going into not a lot of detail, but sounding, I don't know. I'm going to try to give you the short version. You know, in the past, I would say 5 years or so, especially since I've hit this stage of life that a woman hits, where your hormones start to go all wah, I have been dealing with, you know, anxiety kind of issues that sometimes turn into sort of like fear and worry, and a lot of they end up being like self-confidence issues, and I don't even know how else to explain it. It's just, I don't feel good about myself, both physically and then sort of mentally, emotionally. And so usually I recognize those for what they are, and I can think about what might be triggering it and get beyond it. But in the last couple of months, and I think it has also to do with how busy things have been this year, the last few months have just been hard, and I've kind of been trying to ignore it, but yeah, it wasn't really working, and so I knew I needed to do something to change stuff up. And I know from past experience that physical exercise does a world of good for my mental and emotional outlook. And I was right, because just going to the gym the first couple of times has really had a positive impact on my perspective on life and my outlook. And, you know, I try not to dwell on that stuff. I don't pretend that it's not there, but it's not something I talk about a whole ton, just because I know there's a lot of people who struggle with things way worse than anything that I do. But it is still an issue, and I am trying to be at least a little honest about it and transparent and say, you know, I'm trying to deal with this. So that is how I'm dealing with it right now, and I think it's a good decision. And I'm feeling better about it. I just need to keep up with it, and I think I will, because when you start to feel better, the things you're doing sometimes become easier to keep doing them, right? It's a positive feedback kind of thing. So anyway, yay for the gym. Let's see, my kombucha. Let me talk to you about my kombucha. I have now bottled my third batch of kombucha. I think it's my third batch. And done my fourth. My fourth is brewing. I'm really happy with how it's turning out. This third batch, it brewed a little longer than I normally would let it, because we were away and everything. It was very, very effervescent when I put it in the bottles. So we'll see how it is once it's done with its second ferment. I put ginger in all of the bottles, and then I also added some chopped up plum to a couple of them, so there'll be a ginger plum thing going on there. If you have experience with kombucha, tell me what you think. My, excuse me, the ones I've done with ginger in the past always taste really, really good. I can taste the ginger. The fruit ones are not usually super flavorful though. I'm putting about a tablespoon of chopped up fruit into my bottles. Should I be using more? I don't know. I've been careful trying not to put too much in because I don't want, the explosion issues. But maybe I could afford to put more fruit in. Let me know what you think. If there's some fruits that work better for you than others, I would love to know. And speaking of kombucha and fermented foods, I have some reading recommendations for you. I haven't talked about what I've been listening to lately. I listened to a book called Sourdough. It was a novel by Robin Sloan. This was a book that was recommended by Susan from the Knit Lib podcast. She recommended it a while back. It's a very quirky novel, but it was really fun and I super enjoyed it. A sourdough starter plays a large role in this novel. So it was just sort of fun to listen to. But I enjoyed that. So if you're listening for a light, fun read or listen this summer, check that one out. Sourdough by Robin Sloan. The other book that I listened to recently and I enjoyed was From My Corner of the Oval by Beck Dory Stein. This was a memoir written by this woman who was a stenographer in the Obama White House years. She joined staff, I want to say, during his first term, and then was there through his last 4 years as well. Her stories were just very interesting, about what goes on with the press briefings and the meetings and the travel, because I didn't know a lot about this. Like, when the president travels, he goes with a huge entourage. It's not just like his, Secret Service people and a couple of close aides. Like, there's, the stenographers and all kinds of other people that are involved in everything he does and on these trips. I was unaware. So that was very interesting to read about that and just, get more insight into that. I don't know how it's being done in the current administration. I would assume it's somewhat similar, maybe. She did work at the very, very beginning of the Trump administration, but that didn't last very long. And she doesn't really go into much detail about that, but it really wasn't relevant to the story. It was about her time with President Obama, which was also very, very cool. So, anyway, I will say it made me anxious sort of listening to that book because she tells stories of a whole lot of partying that would go on these travel things. And she drank a lot, like enough that it was making me nervous for her health. Like, oh my gosh. Granted, she's in her 20s, but still, like, take care of yourself, girl. And just relationship stuff, and so it was part, memoir about life in the political world, but then also her personal life at the same time, how those were interplaying. So it was interesting. Yeah, I can say I enjoyed it. Your mileage may vary. There's a little bit of swearing in that one, I do believe. So if that bothers you, you might not want to listen to it. But anyway, those are what I have been listening to. I'm not listening to anything new right now. I have to find something new. Okay, I think that's everything I've got for you for 90% this week. I do have shop news that I want to talk about, but I need to go and get some things because I am going to be having a shop update on Friday. Yay! A shop update. Friday, August 3rd at 6 p.m. So I'm going to go grab some stuff to show you, and then I'll be right back, and we'll talk about it. Stay tuned. Okay, I'm back, and I have a bunch of yarn around me now, which is very exciting. It's been a while since I've done this part of the podcast. Like I mentioned in a little piece that I just popped into the beginning of the podcast, last week I did mention that I would probably maybe just do a separate little video or something showing you what would be going into the shop. But I'm not going to do that. Number one, I like to record that kind of stuff outside whenever I just do the pictures, and it's pouring rain, so there's no possible way I can do that today. Number two, I'm here, my yarn's here, it'll just be easier to show you, and that way I can talk about it and tell you, and not have to process two separate videos. So, that to be said, I'm going to show you a bunch of yarn. I will say I already added a lot of semi-solids. I did like a complete restock of semi-solids in the shop. There is so much in there on Bounced, Bedazzled, Traveler Sport Weight, and Cozy Worsted Weight. So if you're in the market for some semi-solids, that's already all up in the shop, so you can check that out. I'm also going to be adding other things from my show inventory, but they're all things that I don't have a lot of left over, so I'm not going to hang on to those for any specific updates. I'm just going to add them as I'm able to. That would be things like some sock blanks, some fiber. I have some like a handful of gradients left, and some mini sets. So I will simply just pop those into the shop as I'm able to get them photographed and put up there. However, I do have a bunch of stuff I'm putting up specifically for an update this Friday, which is August 3rd at 6 p.m. Eastern, and I'm going to show you that now. And then next Friday, August 11th? No, 10th. Friday, August 10th, also at 6 p.m. That is going to be a big update of all self-striping. Like the motherload of self-striping yarn will be going up next Friday. So you can be watching for that. Hopefully I will get to record next week though and share some of that with you. But let me share with you right now what I'm going to be putting in the shop for this week. Three things, three main areas. And the first of which is inversibles, which I know technically are self-striping, but they're their own little area of self-striping. I'm going to show you a whole bunch of self-striping combos that I'll be putting into the shop this week. Some of them, there's only one set. Others, there's multiple sets, so just check the listings and you'll see. I've gone back to putting inversibles into the shop individually, like one colorway per listing. I was trying to group them together, but it actually is just easier to do them singly, so you don't have to search around through listings. Alright, so on Bounce, we have purple and silver gray, black and pink, black and undyed, so black and white, which I don't think I've done in the shop before. This was, I had a special order for this, and since I do multiple sets, I've got some left over. This one is sapphire and silver, which is another one I don't think I've had in the shop before. Let's see, we've got Aqua Shock and Electric Pink. Yeah, I've got several colors that are similar, so I like to double check. And we've got Cherry and Silver, which is a favorite that people seem to like. Then we've got Rhodochrosite and Denim. Rhodochrosite is sort of a pinky purple. We've got Cherry and Pink. Lots of pinks. If you love pink, this is your week. It's funny though, for inversibles, pinks sell really well. Like, people love inversibles that have pinks in them. Oh, and then this one is Magenta and Lime. So those are the ones that I have going up in Bounce. And then on Bedazzled, we have got Purple and Gold. We've got Orange and Lemon. We have Aqua Shock and Electric Bubblegum. And we have Dark Brown and Turquoise Blue. So those are all of the inversibles. Lots and lots to choose from. If you've been waiting for inversibles, there you go. Alright, the second category of stuff I'm putting up in the shop this week is some variegated and speckled yarns. I don't have a lot of these, but there was enough that I thought they warranted going up in an update. I think I brought in duplicates of some of them. Most of these I have available on more than one base, so you'll check the listing. The listing will be by colorway, and then in the listing you'll see the drop down and it'll tell you, or the description will tell you what bases it's being offered on, and then you'll choose that from the drop down when you place your order. So we've got some Runaway. This was one of my Antigua collection colorways. I also have that on Bedazzled apparently, because I brought a skein of it in on Bedazzled, which I hadn't planned to, but it's fun. I love that colorway. Another Antigua colorway was Rendezvous. These were all named after like harbors and bays in Antigua, in case you were wondering. Let's see. And Willoughby. Willoughby was another Antigua colorway. And then from my Colors of Classic Rock, we had Ruby Tuesday. So I've got some Ruby Tuesday going up. I think I didn't bring it in here, I think I also have some Tangled Up in Blue. But I think I only have that on Worsted Weight. I've got Leaf Pile. I know I've got at least a couple skeins of Leaf Pile. I will definitely be doing more Leaf Pile in the coming month or so as we lead up to fall, because this was a super popular colorway this past fall. And lastly, I have this one, which was a colorway I dyed up just for shows, and this was Forged in Fire, the variegated and speckled, because I also had some of this in a self-striping, I believe. But this is the variegated. Alright, so those are the variegated and speckles. Now, the last thing, this is a special collection that I dyed up recently. I introduced it at my last show that I did in July, and this is the first time it's going into the shop. And this is called the Soft Side Collection. I'm really excited about this collection because it is very different from what I usually dye. I mean, I just showed you all these colorways, and they're all very bright and vivid and very, very colorful, because that's what I do. I do color, right? But sometimes I have a soft side, and I get drawn towards sort of more softer colors. I'm not typically a pastel kind of person, and I don't tend to dye a lot of pastels, and these are not quite pastels, but they are very, very soft. So, I don't know the best way to show you these. Basically, let me introduce them to you in this way. I have 4 different color families in this collection, and each one consists of a self-striping, a variegated and speckled, and a coordinating semi-solid. So let's just go with that. The first one I will show you was the original one that when I was developing this was the first one I came up with. And this is the Rose Petals colorway. So, the center one is the self-striping. This is the variegated, and when I say variegated and speckled, they are variegated, but they are speckled quite mildly. There's not heavy, heavy speckling in these. So, that is the variegated and speckled. And then the coordinating semi-solid is definitely a very pale rose petal pink. Okay, I'm going to show you a sample of the self-striping that I started to knit up. I've got a lap full of yarn I'm trying to not let drop. So this is how the self-striping of all of these colors will stripe up, okay? As you can see, the white stripe in the self-striping does have mild speckling of the other colors in it. So each of these is going to be this format, with this very soft sandy brown, this soft gray. It'll have these tinier stripes of the white with the speckles, and then it'll have the main colorway color. So in this case, it's the rose petal pink. Okay, so that is how this one is working up. This is on my Heavenly base. I did some of these on Heavenly and some on Bounce for the self-striping. Rose Petals is in Heavenly, on Heavenly. Okay, so now keep that in mind, because then we'll move on to the other 3 colors. Whoopsie. Alright, and this one is called Cotton Sheets. This one obviously has a purple color in it. So instead of the pink in the self-striping, you'll have purple, but the other colors will all remain the same. So the middle is the self-striping, and then you have the variegated and speckled. It's just so soft and lovely. And then the Cotton Sheets purple, which is a real light, soft purple. Okay. Then we have a blue variety. I'm trying to put these in the same order for each color, called Chambray. So again, center is your self-striping. So you'll have a blue stripe in that self-striping pattern that I showed you already. And then this one is the variegated and speckled. I will say there are, I played around and I put some, is it this one? There are some darker speckles in here, but it's still a mild speckling. Like that white stripe is just going to have a mild speckle to it. It won't be super heavily speckled. Oh, that's not the stripe. That's the variegated. I'm sorry. But the same is true with the self-striping. It's a little heavier speckled, but it'll be good. It'll be a mild speckling. And then the chambray blue for your semi-solid. Words. Okay, and then lastly we have this. Honestly, this one's my favorite, and you probably won't be surprised because you know how much I love golds and yellows. This one is Wild Honey. So this is the self-striping in the middle. So you've got that great honey gold in there with the other colorways, the other colors, variegated and speckled, and the Wild Honey gold. I love this. This is my favorite out of them. I know I shouldn't have favorites. It's like having a favorite child, but honestly, I do love this. I love them all, but something, I'm going to have to make something out of this. If I had dyed this one first, I probably would have knit the sample out of that colorway, but I didn't. So anyway, so those will be up in the shop. Now, I will say the self-striping will either be on Bounce or Heavenly, depending on the colorway. Cotton Sheets and Rose Petal will be on Heavenly. The other two are on Bounce. The variegated and speckled skeins I have on both Bounce and Bedazzled in most of the colors. Some of it's sold out at the show, so there might be one that doesn't have both, but yeah, that's what I've got for you right now. And then the semi-solid, I believe I have the semi-solid on both Bounce and Bedazzled as well, in most of them. I will restock those as they sell out. So, you know, if something isn't there when you go to look for it this time, by the next shop update next week, I hope to be able to have more in there. Fingers crossed. So, all right. So that's everything for this week's update. Inversibles, some variegated and speckled, and the new soft side collection. Again, and I will do another update next week that will have all self-striping, but I'll talk about that more next week. Looking ahead, that leaves three more Fridays in August. I hope to be able to do updates in at least 2 of those Fridays. But again, I will tell you more about that as the times approach. But that's my plan. I'm so happy to be able to be back to doing updates in the shop. The conversion rewards program, obviously it's still going on. I had the privilege of granting somebody one of their rewards this week. I know a whole lot of you are over that first 500, and I'm anxiously awaiting hearing from you, but if you're holding on and wanting to build up even more, go for it. You can cash those in at any time in 500 gram increments. And lastly, this is just something I'm going to throw out there because it's going to be in the future yet, but I'm super excited about it. Fiber Nymph Dye Works is getting a new home on the internet. I already have a new home here. But yeah, I am having my website redone professionally. For the past 7+ years, I have always done my own website. I think it's been okay, but I don't have the know-how to make it be exactly what I really want it to be. So I am really excited to be working with a professional web designer he's got fabulous ideas and know-how, and every time I say, can I do this? Can we make it do this? He's like, yep, no problem. And I'm like, yes. So I am super excited about that. I'll be able to offer a whole lot of features that I have not been able to do on my own website and through the Big Cartel shop, because my shop will move off of Big Cartel at that point and be in my own website. That is super exciting for me. Anyway, that's coming down the road. It will not launch until fall. I'm aiming for right after I get back from our trip. So you can be looking for that in October, hopefully early October. That's the game plan right now, but I will definitely keep you posted on that. I'm just really excited about it because it's been a long time coming, and I finally am at a good place where I can have that happen in the way that will be something I'll be able to use for a very, very long time. So, yay. All right, that's everything. I know this was a long podcast, and if you stuck through the whole thing, thank you so very much. Hopefully next week will be a little bit shorter. But anyway, if you're one of the winners, don't forget to please get in touch with me. Let me know your name, mailing address, and prize choices. And otherwise, if you have anything you'd like to contribute or talk to me about or ask, please go to the episode thread in the Ravelry group, or leave a comment in YouTube. I'd be happy to talk to you in any of those places. You can always email me at fibernymph@gmail.com. And anyway, yeah, have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.